Hello, everyone, and welcome to the David Hittle Real Estate Show. My name, the host, is David Hittle. I am a realtor with United Real Estate Louisville, and I wanted to discuss today 2020 year in review. Since this is the final YouTube Live for 2020, I wanted to come to you today and discuss the entire year from January until the end of November, because that's about as far as the information goes. But we will have live shows in January of 2021 that will definitely discuss what happened at the end of 2020. But today's show is important because it is the full picture of what happened in 2020 when it comes to our real estate market here in the Louisville, Lexington area specifically. So there will be a lot of numbers that I'm going to throw out there today. And then at the end, I will break it all down and explain what it means and why it is important. But before we get started, I do hope that you know who I am. If you don't know who I am, I'm David Hittle. I am a realtor with United Real Estate Louisville. I do these live YouTube shows every week, Sundays at 2 o'clock. And I try to take what I have learned in that week and express it to all of you. I have been told I have the heart of a teacher, which is great in real estate. I'm always wanting to tell everyone everything that I know. So if you like these videos, if you're interested in real estate, if you want to keep up with what is happening in the real estate market, please click that subscribe button down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. You just click on it. It'll ask you if you want to subscribe. Click yes. You're good to go. If this video is helpful to you, if you like this video, if you want to share this video, I would love that. Please share this video, and please also give me a thumbs up. At any time, if you want to communicate with me one-on-one, you can always put a message there in the chat room. I think YouTube gives you 200 characters, so use them to the fullest. But it's 2:01, so let's get started. Today's episode is 2020 Year in Review, and this is what has occurred this year in real estate starting in January. So, starting in January of 2020, here in the Louisville Lexington market, we had 989 homes sold in January. That is an increase from last year's January of 958. The average selling price here locally was was $217,964. That was versus $215,000 last year, so an increase of just under $2,000. The median selling price in January was $181,000 this year versus $175,000 last year, so an increase of $6,000 in the median selling price. The average days on market back in January were 55 versus 51 in 2019. And at the end of January 2020, the mortgage interest rates were 3.51%. Looking at February had more sales, almost 100 more sales in February than in January, 1,088, which was up 4 from the previous February. The average selling price increased increased to 222,392. So that increased almost $5,000 from January until February for average selling price. That was versus 216,000 the previous year. So a pretty big increase there as well. Median selling price increased $8,000 from the 181 in January to 189, and that was up from 177,500 the previous year. Average days on market stayed the same at 55 versus 52 the previous year. And by the end of February, the mortgage interest rates had dropped to 3.45%. So we started to see these rates start to tumble. They started to fall. March of 2020 was a boom month. It was the beginning of what was going to occur this year. 1,355 homes were sold in March of 2020 versus 1,382 the previous year. So down from the previous year, but almost 300 more than in February. The average selling price increased almost $10,000 between February and March, from February's $222,000 to March's $231,000. So just between February and March, the average selling price of a home increased almost $10,000. And that $231,000 was versus $215,000 the previous year. Median selling price increased to $198,000, and that was up from $189,000 in February. And that $198,000 was versus last year's $178,000. So between March of 2019 and March of 2020, the median selling price increased almost $20,000. Almost $20,000 from March of 2019 to March of 2020. That is amazing. Amazing home price increase. The average days on market fell by 5 days to 50, and that was versus 52 last year. And the mortgage interest rate actually went up in March. It went from 3.45 in February to 3.50 in March. So we really didn't know what was going to happen in March. Amazingly, today we just know that interest rates have fall. But in actuality, they did fall, but then they peaked back up again. So that's interesting. By April of 2020, 1,306 homes were sold. That was versus 1,456. Again, COVID hit right at the end of March, and that may have devastated what would have been an amazing housing market this year. The average selling price increased almost $5,000 from March. It went to $236,000. And that was versus $222,000 the previous year. And the median selling price had increased to $200,000, which was up about $2,000 from March, and was up $16,000 from the previous year. So median selling price this year in April was $200,000 versus last year's $184,000, $16,000 increase. The average days on market started falling dramatically. They went from 50 to 41, and that was versus 44 the previous year. And the mortgage interest rates by the end of April sat at 3.23%. May was a boomer as well. The start of summer, 1,291 homes sold in May of 2020. The average selling price was $244,000. Again, almost $10,000 more in just a month from April to May From 244,000, it was 236 in April, so almost 10,000. But then looking at the previous year, the previous May of 2019 was 236,000 in the average selling price. So again, almost $10,000, right at 8,500-ish. Median selling price was 211,500 this year versus 198,000 last year, and that was up 11,500 from the previous month. Average days on market was 43. Mortgage interest rates in May had settled to 3.15%. Getting into June, the real start of summer, when it starts to get really, really warm. And if you pay attention closely, you'll start to realize where homes sell the most. June of 2020, 1,804 homes sold. That was more than the previous year's 1,759. The average selling price increased just under 5,000 from May to 249,932. And that was up about 6,000, actually more than 6,000 from the last year, 243,125. The median selling price only increased $500. It went from 211,500 to 212, but that was versus 210 the previous year. So up $2,000 from June of 2019 to June of 2020. Average days on market were still 40, and the mortgage interest rates had continued to fall. They were down to 3.13%. July, the hottest month of the year, if I remember correctly, 1,958 homes sold. So it is officially the hottest month for the real estate market too, and you'll see why. Average selling price. June was almost 250,000, 249,932, so almost 250,000. The average selling price in July increased to 263,500. So almost $13,000 in average sale price from June to July. And that was versus last year's 249,105. So just about 13,400 from the previous July as well. Median selling price in June was 212,000. It jumped to 229,000 in July, and that was versus 210,000 the previous year. This is where our average days on market started to tumble as well. We had gotten down to 36, so just over a month, and mortgage interest rates in July settled to 2.99%, getting under that 3% mark. August, another boomer year, another boomer month for 2020, 1,863 homes sold. That was 63 more than last year's August. The average selling price did not go very far. It did increase about $6,000 to $269,000, and that was versus $232 the previous year. So think about that. Just pause for a second. August of 2019, your average selling price on your home here in the Louisville Lexington market was $232,520. By August of 2020, your average selling price was $269,359. That is an increase of almost $37,000. Think about that. From August of 2019 to August of 2020, average selling prices increased almost $37,000. Woo! That's a big chunk of change. Very big chunk of change. The median selling price was $225,000, so it dropped a little bit from July, but it was up from August of 2019's 196,000. Again, average days on market about 32, and mortgage interest rates 2.91%. We started to see the fall. September of 2020, selling pretty good. 1,613 homes sold in the Louisville Lexington market. That was versus 1,602. So 11 more from September 2019 to September 2020. Average selling price actually fell. It fell about $8,000 to $261,407. But even with the fall from August to September of 2019, the average selling price was $223,000. So think about that. $223,900, so $224,000 in average selling price of September of 2019. And by September of 2020, it had increased to $261,000. That's almost a $40,000 average selling price difference. That is an enormous chunk of change. And then looking at the median selling price, it fell again from the previous month to September, $220,000, but it was versing $191,000 the previous year. So almost a $30,000 increase from September 2019 to September 2020. Average days on market 30, right at a month, and the mortgage interest rate's 2.90%. October of 2020 was a better month than the previous month. 1,684 homes sold in October 2020 versus only 1,586 last year. Average selling price increased from September to $269,669, so increased about $8,200 from the previous month, but it was versing October 2019 of $231,000. So again, looking at that, $38,000 price difference from October of 2019 to October of 2020. Amazing. Median selling price increased from September to $222,838, and that was versing about $190,000 the previous year. And the average days on market had dropped to 28, and that was versing 41 in September of 2019. And the mortgage interest rates had fallen to 2.81 by the end of October 2020. Looking at November, which of course is the last month that we have full figures for, there were 1,588 homes sold in November. That was up from last year's 1,401. So an increase of 187 homes. Big number. Average selling price actually decreased almost $10,000 from October to November. Average selling price had fallen to $258,000, but that was versus $220,000 the previous year. So an increase of almost $38,000 versus the previous year. Median selling prices fell out to $220,500, but again, that was versus $187,500 the previous year. So again, almost $40,000 in increases. The average days on market fell to 24, and the mortgage interest rates were 2.72%. So the highlights from all this, I know that was a lot of numbers, and they say that reading numbers or stating numbers in a video or on the radio or whatever is really, really bad because people they start to fall asleep. I hope you didn't. Here are the highlights in case you missed any of that. The number of homes sold in 2020 through November this year was 16,539. That was versus 16,574 the previous year. Previous year, we didn't have COVID. So this year without COVID, I think we would have just blown those numbers away. But even with the pandemic, the home sales were quite similar to 2019. The average selling price went from 217,964 in January of 2020 to $258,038 in November. And if you would have sold your home in those really, really hot months like October, you would have seen even more. But just that increase is an increase of $40,000. So, again, let me state that. Your home this year, on average, went from being worth $217,964 to being worth $258,038 in November of 2020. An average selling price increased over $40,000 this year. The median selling price went from $181,000 in January of 2020 to $220,500 in November. And again, if you would have sold in those hot months, August was $225,000, July was $229,000. So you could have seen a bigger sale. But just January to November, an increase of $39,500. Almost a $40,000 increase this year in the Louisville Lexington market on median selling price. Amazing. It is an amazing time to own a home. The average days on market went from 55 days in January, almost 2 months, to 24 days, less than a month this year. And finally, mortgage interest rates, which were 3.51% at the end of January, had fallen to 2.72% by the end of November, and today are at historic lows of 2.66%. So what does this mean to you? If you are a seller, you should find comfort in the fact that 2021 is probably going to be an amazing year for your home's price, for your home's value. 2020 saw an average $40,000 increase in your average sell price. A seller can also take comfort in the reduced number of days on market. If I put your house on the market today, on average, it should be sold in 24 days. If not, there's something wrong, and we will diagnose that issue. For buyers, the low mortgage rates are great news. In January of 2020, a 3.51%. Listen to this, because this blew my mind when I put it through the amortization calculator. January of 2020, with a 3.51% interest rate on a $250,000 30-year loan, would have cost you $154,642 and some change in interest over the lifetime of that loan. In November, with an interest rate of just 2.72 on that same $250,000 30-year loan, your interest is only $115,989.28, a difference of $38,652.76. What does that mean? The difference, because of the interest rates for the buyer, is around the same difference that the seller has increased in property value, in home value, right at around $40,000. So the buyer, so even though home prices are trickling up, because the mortgage rates have fallen, home buyers are still coming out pretty good. They're still able to afford the home that they want because of the reduced interest rates. And looking at today's interest rate of 2.66 on that same loan, the interest would cost you about $113,141 and some change over the lifetime of the loan. That completely makes up for the $40,000 plus home gain that the sellers have seen. My 2021 prediction is this. I see 2021 being a great year yet again in the Louisville Lexington market. I believe we will remain in a seller's market with low inventory and high demand. If interest rates remain low, demand will remain even more heightened, and homeowners who don't want to leave their homes for a few more years will also be able to take advantage of the low interest rates in refinancing. I see 2021 as the best year ever. And I hope you will allow me to help you on the journey towards home ownership. Now, here's my challenge to you. Maybe you have a difference of opinion. Everybody is free to have their own opinion. If you have a difference of opinion, I want to hear from you. If you think 2021 is going to be a bad year for real estate, I want you to email me at Shopkentuckyhomes, all one word, at yahoo.com and tell me why. Tell me why you think 2021 is going to be a bad year. There's talk of a housing crash in 2021. If you think that, or you think that housing is not going to be good in 2021, let me know. I want to know why you think that 2021 is going to be a bad year after I think and after I've told you that 2021, I believe, is going to be the best year for real estate ever. So I'll leave you with that. Please visit my website at shopkentuckyhomes.com. Again, all one word. If you need to get a hold of me, my phone number is right there, 502-489-1135. You have watched the David Hittle Real Estate Show, brought to you by United Real Estate Louisville. And until next Sunday, where we'll be in a new year, I wish you all great travels and great dreams, and everybody have a happy new year. Have a great day.